Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on what is a really busy night in the land of severe weather in the Deep South. We had the Storm Prediction Center putting up a high risk of severe weather, and it is playing out as advertised. Dozens of tornado warnings that were out. Been tracking one destructive tornado, which I'm going to pull up in just a second. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware as they continue to get ready for the spring season, and they have got topsoil, mulch, gravel, everything you need when it comes to getting your yard in tip-top shape. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, 631-756-1125. Best prices in town, omnitruevalue.com. And also brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs. Christmas, St. Patrick's Day, Halloween, and maybe you want to do this as a business come the fall. Give them a call, 631-957-5106, and the website is liholidaylighting.com. Joe, the severe weather, and I brought up Tornado HQ right off the bat because right now, about a couple hours ago, there were about 6 or 7 tornado warnings working all at the same time. There is one still ongoing at the moment. And this was from a warning issued at 5:49 Central Daylight Time, so 6:49 Eastern. And you don't often see this. Certainly, we don't see it that often here. We often get these tornado warnings where it's off the radar and not necessarily coming from an observation. But this particular one, Joe, a confirmed large and destructive tornado observed near Columbiana, moving northeast at 50 miles an hour. And you can go on Tornado HQ and you can actually, on the dots, I'm going to toggle the radar off so you can see here the tracks of all the tornado warnings from earlier and the tracks of those particular tornadoes on a show's personal note. And on our personal note, we often see him here on the wintertime on the chat board, Jess Harden, for always asking about when it's going to snow in Alabama. And, I do tease him from time to time about that. But, Timothy Veltman passed along the information that the tornado here in question, a mile wide, and
Wow.
was heading for Wilsonville, Alabama, which is where Jess Harden's town is. That's his town.
Wow.
And this tornado, again, thank you, Timothy Veltman, for passing this along, on the ground for almost at least 70 miles. And he was opining that it was either an EF4 or an EF5 based on the pictures, videos, and radar. This tornado went through Centerville, Alabama, and there's video all over the place of the destruction. I saw some on Twitter. It's mind blowing, and this tornado was heading for Wilsonville, but Timothy said it looked like it may have lifted just before hitting that town. So a piece of good news, but the destruction today has been something. I mean, it really has.
Now, did you check to see where your new abode is and where it is relative to all of this activity, whether or not something is approaching or has already passed on by?
Well, there were tornadoes into Georgia. Now I am on the map. You can't really see where my town, where I am. I'll just put a marking. I'm probably somewhere up here. Okay, hold on. Let me move that out of the way. I'm probably right about there. So no warnings were up there, but we did have some warnings from earlier in and around Cartersville and Rome, Georgia. Tornadoes that were tracked through that area, north and west of Atlanta and Marietta. between Marietta and Dalton, Georgia. That's where these tornadoes have tracked. And actually, if you follow them along from the standpoint of the tornado warnings that went all the way back to just outside of Birmingham and moved on up to the northeast. Those were some of the older warnings. We had tornadoes in and around Tuscaloosa, just outside of Meridian in Mississippi. But you can look at this track here of the warnings that were issued from the first. This has got to be the same. I wonder if this is the same tornado running all through the warnings, just kind of lined up here, these warnings one after another after another. And this is the current one that it may have expired. Let me just give this a refresh. And indeed, it looks like it has expired. So this was one issued at 5:49 p.m. Central Daylight Time near Columbiana. So that tornado warning has expired, and they have not extended it. So that's good news. I'm just looking back at some of the warnings from earlier. At 5:15 Central Time, a confirmed large and destructive tornado. So it was the same one in Centerville, in Bibb County in Alabama, and just another one at or from earlier, confirmed a destructive tornado near Harrisburg or near Brent in Alabama, in Chilton and Shelby counties. Excuse the pronunciation, folks, if I got it wrong. I'm seeing some of these for the Shelby. I can figure. Chilton, I'm not sure if I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it. But this has been, you see moderate risk every once in a while. You see high risk. It's rare, but to see, we saw it last week in almost the same area, and I got to say this because this morning when the high risk, Joe, went up, there were a couple of tweets that I saw indirectly, because I really don't spend a lot of time on Twitter, but I saw some tweets indirectly about from I guess some forecasters whose opinion it was that the high risk was not justified based on what they saw. And I would just say this, it's, you can disagree with a forecast, but it might not be a bad idea to just kind of wait for the thing to play out and then come with your criticism, because, reality, I think, took over today. And my view is, Joe, when they put up a high risk, if that forecast winds up being an underperformer, if it winds up being a bust, I don't think it's bad news. I think it's good news.
No, actually, my goodness, here we are. We're talking about a tornado, one singular storm, 1 mile wide, on the ground for 70 miles. I mean, why not? Why not, in advance of something like that, why not say high probability? I mean, what more do you need to issue a high probability of kinetic activity?
I have to tell you, I saved this from this morning. Let me bring this up because you don't see. I don't remember seeing this, but I use I go to I use the National Weather's digital database to cut out maps to put up on my website and also on my subscription platform, but. I cut this one out, and I want you to take a look at this, because this was something. There's one of the options that they give you is the probability of an extreme tornado, and just for laughs, because I saw the high risk, I thought, okay, let me pull it up and see what they have. Kudos to SPC, because they they forecasted this morning. I know the number doesn't sound big, but a 10% probability of an extreme tornado over a large geographic area. And to me, you see something like this, it just raises your eyebrows, and totally justified in terms of what has transpired during this afternoon and this evening. So. These guys do, this is a difficult job. I get a kick out of the fact that people are always quick to criticize somebody else's job, a job that they don't have, and they have no idea how much work is involved and the expertise that's involved in order to for those people to do their job. But somehow, someone who knows knows less or nothing at all feels that it's perfectly reasonable for them to throw criticism out, and then I just find it amazing.
There was a 30% chance, not of an extreme event, but just in terms of tornadic activity in the high area, 30%, Joe.
Hmm.
And we're used, and up here, we're so used to 2%, maybe 5%. We get excited when it gets to 5% because
Right.
that doesn't happen very often. Meanwhile, down in the deep south, they had up to 30% probability of or possibility of tornadic activity today. That is just unbelievable, incredible.
Yeah. Right now, I'll give it another refresh because just in case something popped up, and there are no tornado warnings up at the moment. So
At the moment.
maybe the maybe the busy round of severe weather has peaked out. I'm looking at the radar on Tornado Tracker on the Tornado Tracker map. Again, this is tornadohq.com, which is a great website if you want to follow severe weather because they scroll out all the warnings for you, and you can check them all out one by one. There were also a few tornadoes up to the eastern part of northern South Carolina, north of Columbia. There was one tornado warning there, and another one to the northeast of there in North Carolina, to the east of Charlotte. So busy day, and then a couple of isolated tornado warnings in northern Mississippi, just outside of Tupelo, which is where my sister is. And at the moment, we're seeing strong thunderstorms have just moved through Jackson, and a line that is snaking to the northwest of Nashville and in Tennessee. And we know, there was that destructive tornado back last year in Nashville. So those folks are ultra sensitive these days to severe weather. More storms from Henderson, Kentucky down to east of Paducah, another one just southeast of Louisville. So severe, there are some strong thunderstorms going on still this evening, and those are going to continue for a little while, at least into the first part of tonight.
I tell you, it is just unbelievable. And the thing that's even more unbelievable, Joe, is this is all happening a week after a very similar event down there. This is the second time around for those folks down in
Almost in the same. It's almost in the same spot. I mean, the same geographic zone of high risk was. It wasn't identical, but it covered much of the same geography. And now on the wider radar, you see the area of thunderstorms and severe weather. It's kind of separated a bit from the actual shortwave is to the north and west of this. And you're seeing rain back into Illinois and into Missouri, and that area is moving up toward the Great Lakes. And then there's some lead showers, that warm front that we were talking about that's setting up for us is pushing northeastward. There's a couple of showers showing up on the radar on a diagonal there from northwest to southeast PA, moving northeastward. So we'll probably start to see a couple of showers moving through our region in short order. All of this whole system playing out to the northeast. We're not going to get the severe weather up here because as those showers of storms move up northeastward, some of that will survive in a much more weakened fashion. And then we got this cold front that's coming through tomorrow morning for us. We're going to see we got wind advisories up for all day for tomorrow afternoon, and I think we're going to see some gusts to 50 out of this. Tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening.
right, south and southwesterly winds. We were talking about this yesterday. By the way, a couple of people have asked to define what lifted index is. And the thing that I'm going to be very sad to see, if you're right, Joe, about the NAM going bye-bye, the FOOS on the NAM gives you lifted indices over, at 6-hour increments. And that really is pretty nice. But the lifted index is the difference between the observed temperature at the 500 millibar level, that's at 18,000 feet above our heads, and the temperature of, let's say, a parcel of air down here at the surface that is then lifted all the way up from the ground to 500 millibars. And the more unstable the environment, the more negative the lifted index. So if you get a lifted index, and this is also interesting, is that this morning, I think, on the FOOS, they were saying for the pre-dawn hours of tomorrow at LaGuardia, a lifted index of -4, which would indicate moderate instability. Now at the 18Z, or the more recent or latest FOOS run, they dropped that back to a -1, which is, no
Right.
big deal. It'll be interesting to see what the 0Z FOOS tonight indicates in terms of lifted index. I mean, I mentioned a thunderstorm for toward daybreak tomorrow morning. Again, as you just mentioned, not likely to be anything severe, but it is enough that we may very well see some convection ahead of the cold front as it passes on by around mid-morning tomorrow. And incidentally, the reason why the activity down across the south is so dynamic is that the frontal line coming across those regions now, very dry air behind it. I'm not sure what the dew point depressions are, or what the difference in dew point between what's behind the front versus what's ahead of it.
Well,
But
I'll pull it up. I'll pull up the hazards map and we'll look at some obs. Go ahead.
but I mean, like to get what they're getting, we must be talking about exceptionally juicy, if I may use the term, very, very humid air ahead of that front, and it's getting slammed or bammed by a really super push of dry air. Those usually lead to the worst outbreaks in terms of violent or severe or possible tornadic weather. So I haven't had a chance today to really look, but I'm sure that the difference between what's ahead of the front versus what's behind it must be tremendous.
Well, we saw yesterday from the forecast, the dew point forecast. We're just looking at these are 7 p.m. Eastern time, temperature, dew point, and all the observations across. I just put the map up for Alabama, and we're looking at a large area. A lot of spots, Joe. Dew points sitting in the upper 60s to around 70, which for this time of year is pretty damn juicy. And back through Mississippi, even some low 70s dew points. For example, Covington in Mississippi, 70 dew point there of 72. Slidell, north of New Orleans, dew point of 70. Bogalusa, 76 temperature, 71 dew point. And you're right. On the other side of that, the frontal boundary, I'm just looking here, for example, Opelousas in St. Landry Parish Airport, which is northwest of Lafayette, Louisiana, has a temperature of 78, a dew point of 68, and a south-southwest wind. Not too far to the west of there, where the front has passed, in Chenault Air Park, which is not too far from Lake Charles, they're 82, dew point there 55, west-north at 8, and then you go into Texas on the other side, and we've got Cleveland, Texas, which is northwest of Houston, 76 dew point, 36. Okay.
Wow.
Southern Rough, and this is north of Beaumont, 75 dew point, 47. Most of the dew points. That 36 was the one standout, but everybody else is pretty much dew points mostly in the lower and middle 40s, then to upper 40s. So somewhere in the 40s. So you are talking about some very dry air that's shooting in from the west. If you go further west into Texas, near Austin, the dew points are in the upper 30s and lower 30s as you go north and west of there. Up around Dallas, Fort Worth, for example, a dew point there at 41. So I mean, you've got really juiced up tropical air here that extends. I'm just pulling the maps up now, going into Tennessee, where we've got temperatures in the mid 60s and dew points in the mid 60s. I mean, talk about walking through soup. Columbia, Tennessee is 68, dew point 68. I mean, that if it's not raining, it's all condensing on your body.
Now, Reaver 501 is asking, Joe Rayo, is that what they call a dry line? Yeah, this is a dry line. There's another term for that, which comes out of Texas, a Marfa line. I guess because Marfa is a place in Texas that has a tendency to be very, very high in terms of dew points, and maybe at one time they had a situation just like what we're looking at right now, where the line moved on through, and the dew point took a precipitous fall.
Yeah.
Uh, and this is your classic dry line. Yeah,
Well,
no question about that.
you see those dry lines, though, like the dew point front. You see those dry lines in Texas a lot,
Yeah,
where on the east side you've got dew points in the 70s, and but places like Houston and in East Texas, they're getting absolutely clobbered with thunderstorms. And then when you jump on the other side of the dry line and you head toward Lubbock and Midland and Amarillo, where the dew points are down in the 20s and low 30s. So yeah, Marfa's probably one of those geographic dividing lines that has to deal with this on a regular basis.
now they
Go ahead.
I didn't want to mean to interrupt, but Tim Beltman mentioned on the chat board that they have updated the convective outlook for day 2, which is tomorrow. They now have a large swath, including the Albany area, a large swath of upstate New York, all of Vermont, most of New Hampshire, and the northwest corner of Massachusetts in a marginal risk
Marginal
for
risk.
severe weather. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I saw that this morning that they had a general thunderstorm risk that they put up there, and I thought, you know what? Wouldn't be a shocker. Wouldn't be a shocker if we wind up, seeing an isolated severe thunderstorm in that. In that, I put that, I showed that on my video to my subscription
Yeah.
site today on Patreon. This was another thing that SPC did that I didn't see very often, but this was Mesoscale Discussion 261, and this was issued at 4:45 this afternoon. Intense tornado
Yes.
corridor. Ongoing, expected over the next 1 to 2 hours. And, of course, they gave on their discussion, their explanation. An intense tornadic supercell located over Hale County will likely remain unimpeded as it moves to the east-northeast across central Alabama during the next 1 to 2 hours. The near-storm environment is currently primed across central Alabama with 0 to 1 kilometer SRH. I'm not sure what that is. At 600 meters per second, observed storm motion according to KBMX VAD. Given the very moist, this is all this is weather tech stuff, folks. Given
Storm relative helicity.
okay,
It's a measure of the potential for cyclonic updraft rotation in right-moving supercells, and is calculated for the lowest 1 and 3 kilometer layers above ground level. So there you go.
and yeah, you and I learn new things every day.
Indeed.
Given the very moist, strongly sheared environment, we talked about that last night with the 700 millibar map showing those 60-knot winds and those little jet streaks all over the place. Expecting a long track, intense EF3 plus and potentially violent tornado to continue east-northeast and reach the I-65 corridor over the next hour or so. And again, judging from what the tornado warnings that we had and Tim's report that he messaged over to me, that certainly wound up verifying. So again, credit where credit is due. These folks do a really, their job ain't easy, and they warned about this yesterday with the moderate risk and now the high risk. And by the way, I've just brought up SPC's map. I'll give it a refresh to make sure we got the latest. There are a new tornado watch has just been posted in Georgia. Okay, so let's take a look at this. And by the way,
Right over Joe Chaffee's house.
well,
No,
you know
sorry,
what?
no.
It's not. It may be. I think I might be in this tornado watch here. And by the way, just as a reminder, folks, this is 7:56 Eastern time. So if you're watching this on a replay overnight, obviously everything you're seeing is dated. So be sure that you go to weather.gov to your local National Weather Service office to get the latest weather information on any severe weather that may be going on in your region. And this is something that we always say with regards to this, because somebody's going to look at this at 2 a.m. and think it's present time. No, it is dated. But yeah, this is a new tornado watch, and I'm thinking that I'm in this. I'm not there. I'm on Long Island right now, but it looks like my area here is under a tornado watch, and that includes Atlanta, and it also includes Marietta, where my grandsons are. So Let's hope that this doesn't verify. But I
Yeah.
guess that's the best way to put it.
Reaver wants you. Reaver 501 says that he strongly recommends to you that you set up blink cameras so you can monitor your home when you're away.
Well, that's when I get back. I actually was planning to do that, so that's on my list, my to-do list, when I get back. The marginal risk for tomorrow on SPC. Yes, as you pointed out, Joe, upstate New York, Western Mass, Vermont, New Hampshire. General thunderstorms down as far south as southern New Jersey, by the way. Also, marginal risk from southern Georgia, southwest Georgia, northeastward through south and eastern North Carolina. Also, a marginal risk in northern Mississippi, eastern Arkansas, and southern southwestern Tennessee, and a marginal risk in northeast Kansas and southeast Nebraska. That's for tomorrow. Now, for Saturday, we're going to have another burst of severe weather possibilities. Right now, a slight risk indicated for northern Mississippi, northwest Alabama, much of Tennessee, western Kentucky, southern Indiana, southern Illinois, southeastern Missouri, and eastern Arkansas, with a larger area of marginal risk surrounding that. And on their day 4, I did notice this before, and I'm thinking it's still there. There is a 15% on the day 4, Joe, in a small portion kind of triangled out in South Carolina and central and eastern North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, a 15% chance. So they're thinking a slight risk of severe weather. This is for Sunday into Monday morning.
I have a feeling that we will be seeing maybe locally late Sunday or Sunday night convection, because we have to wait for that warm front to move through during the latter part of Sunday. Then there's another sharp cold front racing in from the west, very much like what we're looking at for tonight, Joe. So it could be a rather active late Palm Sunday into Palm Sunday night for us. And then behind that will be a rather windy day on Monday. And of course, we have the winds to contend with for tonight into late tonight to tomorrow. Tomorrow, those winds will be, as you mentioned at the top of the show, could be gusting upwards to 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, first tornado warning now for Hardin County in Tennessee. And this was just issued 11 minutes ago. And the Doppler indicating a severe thunderstorm producing a tornado near Savannah, Tennessee, moving northeast at 60 miles an hour. And you can see where it's outlined there, the tornado warning box that is up on the board. And this is well south and west of Nashville, but it's in that line that extends from northeast of Nashville southwestward into Mississippi, into northeastern Mississippi, just north and west of Tupelo. So it's right. It's very close to the Mississippi-Tennessee state line.
Right. Okay. So we'll just have to see how things progress over the coming hours. But it looks like another active. And I said this before. I said this last week. I said the worst thing that you possibly could have is the threat of either a violent thunderstorm or worse, a tornado coming your way after dark. I mean, it's one thing to be out. You step outside and you can see, like in The Wizard of Oz, you see like those twisters and off in the distance coming your way. And, you say, it's a twister. But it's at night. I mean, what the heck are you going to be able to do at night? All you could do is just listen for the
freight train,
tornado, the freight train sound or whatever. Yeah.
Not good. Not good. WPC, a rainfall forecast showing over the next 7 days some rather ample precip up in New England, 1.5 inches to some places in Maine, 3 inches of liquid or more. We're in the, let's say, 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches from southern New Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware. You get to New York City, that's where you get to about the 1 inch line. And then north and east of New York City into southern New England and Long Island, looks like in that purplish area, which is 1.5 inches to 1.75 inches. And that's from now until next Thursday evening. So this is all for the next 7 days. Big precip amounts in Tennessee, in northern Alabama, northern Mississippi. Some of that obviously is occurring right now, and also into northwest Georgia. And then, of course, we have this weather system that's going to be coming out for over the weekend. That'll probably bring another round of severe weather, as we showed what WPC is doing. And for the snow lovers, still not done out in the west. It may not be done for a while, although it's a little bit less than yesterday. We do have the Rockies. If you go west of Denver, west of I-25, a rather large area. This is the probability for at least 2 inches. And a lot of areas there with the probability of 50% or higher. A small area in southwestern Colorado, where we have a 50% or greater probability of at least 4. This is not a major storm by any stretch of the imagination. So here's this was the NAM. Let's see if we'll get the latest NAM up here on the board and take a look at what's going on with respect to this low that's in southeastern Missouri, passing near St. Louis, the low center running up into Indiana. You see those showers there around 11 o'clock. A narrow band of showers. That's the warm front trying to push through and moving up into New England. And then you got the cold front. The NAM, Joe, takes a lot of the showers and storms that are going on. It looks a little underdone initially, but it does tend to weaken a lot of the precip overnight. So it doesn't look, there's like a couple of stray showers here tomorrow morning. And then, of course, the gradient is starting to really tighten as that low moves north of Lake Erie and heads towards Lake Ontario. And I'm still on course here. We're going to break out into some sunshine tomorrow at some point. Maybe say late morning or midday. And with that west wind, or that west-northwest wind, and all that downsloping, somebody's going to 80 tomorrow.
No question, west and south of New York City. But it'll be flying through the 70s. And yeah, it very, very well could hit 80 degrees in 1 or 2 spots, maybe Philadelphia or Wilmington, Delaware, down in that direction. By the way, David Schwartz is requesting that you refresh the Tornado HQ page. Second tornado warning, he says, issued in Alabama.
Okay, yep, there it is. Let's go to that on Tornado HQ. Thank you, David. All right, hang on. I'm just going to try to zoom in a little bit on this. So this one is, you can see the radar echo and the box. Approximate location. All right, this was at, trying to read this, my glasses. There's a lot of zeros in there, so let me just go right to the warning. This was, okay, so this was this was 5 minutes ago. Warning issued, ends in 25 minutes. It's 8:05 Eastern time. So this was issued at 8 o'clock. At 7 p.m. Central, severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located over Butler, moving east at 50 miles an hour. And this is in Choctaw County in Alabama. So if I'll toggle the radar echoes off. Let's see, we get those off. It's in the southwestern part of the state. They don't have any geography here. They don't have the towns labeled. Maybe if I widen out. No, there's not it's not near Montgomery, obviously, nor is it near Birmingham. So it's southeast of Meridian in Mississippi, but it's on the Alabama side, and moving on up toward the east northeast. So again, a reminder: it's 8:06 Eastern time. If you're watching this on a replay, be sure to go to weather.gov to get the latest weather information with regards to severe weather. So, this all plays out tomorrow. The weekend is, the weekend is a 50-50 weekend show. Saturday is going to be dry. It'll be cooler than Friday, but it'll still be on the warmish side in the 60s, I think, in most places. And then here comes the next front for Sunday with the showers and possible thunderstorms, particularly in the areas that SPC indicated. Also a little bit of sleet, freezing rain, and snow for central and northern Maine out of this. and then that front passes, and the gradient tightens up again Sunday night into Monday morning. So I don't know if it's going to be advisory criteria, but it is early April, or I'm sorry, it's I take that back. It's the end of March, and it's still the March winds will howl whenever they get an opportunity to.
I think actually the Monday, I said this yesterday or maybe the day before. I thought that between tomorrow and Monday, I thought the greater risk or the greater threat for an advisory would probably be Monday. So we made it to advisory criteria for tomorrow. So to me, that means like Monday's in the bag. I mean, we could have wind advisories. Who knows? They may even go to a high wind advisory for a time.
I mean, a high wind warning.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't have high wind advisories, do they?
No, it's a high wind warning.
I'm so confused about advisories and warnings.
I know.
It's
well, I have the map up of the watches and warnings. So wind advisories for tomorrow, a fairly extensive area. Most of the southern half of New York State, most of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Long Island, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. There are pockets of high wind warnings in southwest Pennsylvania. You can see them there in gold. Also in southwestern New York. Advisories extend down to the Delmarva Peninsula, to Maryland, northwestern Virginia, down into Tennessee, and all the way down through Alabama, because right now they've got the tornado watches up, and those dark reds that you see, those are all current flash flood warnings that are ongoing in parts of northeastern Alabama, northwestern Georgia. High wind warnings also up for much of Ohio and a good portion of the state of Indiana, with wind advisories surrounding that. We have wind advisories in the southwest, in Arizona and in Southern California, away from the coast. Otherwise, a couple of winter weather advisories in southwestern Colorado, and a couple of winter weather advisories in northeastern Michigan, and the rest of the country seems to be advisory free at the moment.
And that's where we'd all like to be at this particular moment in time. All things considered, what's happening east of the Mississippi versus west of the Mississippi.
Correct. All right, so looking at the upper airs, we take a look at where are we going as the month draws to a close next week, and April comes in. And of course, we've had this pretty much progressive pattern, weather systems moving along. Here's the upper trough for Sunday, and that lifts out up into to the northeast toward Newfoundland and into the Davis Strait. And then we've got another ridge that pops up after Monday. I think we're going to try to warm up. One of the things that struck me, I'm not going to pull the map up now, but at the moment, but one of the things that struck me when I was looking at the surface map, and thinking about the fact that we had this severe weather risk last week, and then the severe weather risk in virtually the same place this week, and everything that's transpired in terms of the in terms of how everything has worked out at the surface. And then I looked at the surface map for next week, and I thought, where have I seen this before? Because we've got another situation with a high going out and a little low that's off North Carolina that might get absorbed by this next trough that heads to the east along about next Thursday, and sharpens a bit as it approaches the East Coast. I will point out, and we pointed this out yesterday, look on the upper right, folks. That is a big, strong, developing, blocking high that you see near south of Iceland and southeast of Greenland that is building westward. And you'll notice that there's an upper low that forms over northern New England that just kind of rotates around and then starts to retrograde back westward because of the strong block. And then that upper low actually drops southward, Joe, to just off the Jersey coast by the time we get to April 7th, April 8th.
A classic push and shove match here.
Yeah, and this is definitely, if this verifies, is going to mean for some rather chilly conditions in the Northeast and actually up and down the East Coast. I'm not talking cold like wintertime cold, but for spring. You're going to be thinking, what did we just have? You're going to say, didn't we just have 80 not that long ago? And we'll probably, in a situation like this, if this verifies, we'd be sitting in the 40s all day.
Right, right. And that's April. April is a, I used to know this stuff off the top of my head. Boom.
April is the
April is the
cruelest
cruelest
month.
month. Who wrote that? Who
Uh,
said that?
I'm going to say Edna St. Vincent Millay.
I, no. I could probably type that into
Or
Google and
was,
find out. Or somebody
or,
on the chat board probably could
or
tell
was
me.
it T.S.
Or tell us.
Eliot?
Maybe it might have been T.S. Eliot.
Well,
Yeah.
Ed, we had this we talked about this once before. Edna St. Vincent Millay also wrote a poem about where she said April. I'm sorry, no, just referencing spring, referring to spring as babbling like an idiot, strewing flowers, which was like an allusion to World War One. It was like
T.S. Eliot.
It was
You're
T.S.
right.
Eliot.
The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot.
Okay.
April is the
No.
cruelest month.
Yeah, I know. Don't.
Breeding.
There'll be copyright
Lilacs.
issues. Don't stop.
Well,
Stop.
all right.
They check these things.
All right. All right. But at least we could say. But at least we can say that that's who.
Yeah.
The
No, we
term
can
April
say who
Fool's
did,
Month,
but if
yeah.
we start quoting
Yeah.
verses, they get up.
Oh.
They get upset. So I'm just bringing up the surface map, and I wanted to show you this. I don't know if you saw this, but somebody posted this, and it caught my eye. I said I got to show Rayo because he'll get a kick out of this. This was, you're still looking for that 1.4.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it was the icon. Yep, there it is. There's your 1.4, Joe, on the icon model for for next Friday. Just pointing this out.
There you go.
Okay, there's your 1.4. Actually, if we took this out another couple of frames, it would probably be, and this would be, if this would time out perfectly for you because this is Friday, this is Thursday night, 0Z. So all of this, if it were to verify, would fall at night, so it would stick.
Correct.
Because if it fell in the daytime, it wouldn't.
Steve LaPointe says Henry and Bastardi saying a couple of snowstorms going to happen in April.
Don't they say that all the time?
I don't know.
Just checking.
I presume Henry is Henry Margessy or whatever.
I believe so.
Saying that.
All right, so we're back up full screen here. Crazy day. Severe weather has always been, for those that follow weather on a regular basis, it's kind of you're kind of straddling a fine line because, from the standpoint of being the weather freak part of you wants to see it, but the realist and the nice person that you are, you really don't want to see it. Because it's obviously the destruction is horrible. It's just absolutely horrible.
No.
And nobody wants to see that happen.
I mean, let me. When I was looking at all of this earlier today, if any of you out there were thinking to yourself that you're having a lousy day today for whatever reason, maybe the boss yelled at you, or maybe you dropped something on the floor, and you say, "My God, what a horrible." Just think about this. Think about the concern that you may have that you may not be the owner of a house tomorrow because you're in that zone, that high risk zone for tornadic activity into tonight and tomorrow. I mean, that is something. I mean, I remember going through something like that with Sandy before I left for work on the day when Sandy was approaching, Joe. And I'm surrounded on all sides by tall trees, and I'm just, I'm beads of sweat thinking about maybe a 75-foot tree landing on my roof. I mean, that's if you think you have a bad day, you think you're stressed out or whatever, just imagine being down in the Southland right now in the path of some of these violent thunderstorms and possible tornadoes. That is something to be more concerned about than anything that may have happened to you during the day today.
Want to say welcome to Gamer Kitty Corn. He's new to the Joe and Joe Weather Show, and he says he's a first-time watcher. Welcome aboard, and welcome to the chat board. Enjoy the conversation because it goes on every night, and sometimes it does get lively around here. So thanks.
Yes, it does.
Thanks for being here. There were a couple of things. Johnny Quest wants to know. Do you have to have a cold front to produce tornadoes? Can you get them with pop-up storms? Absolutely.
Yes.
You don't need you don't necessarily you get the widespread outbreaks with the cold fronts, but with the with more isolated thunderstorms, sure, that happens all the time. It happens all the time in the later. You probably see them more, later in the spring and certainly over the summer. You do see them from time to time. You also see them in hurricanes.
I remember one case, I think it was 93 or 94. It was in July or August. I was on the Clearview Expressway, Joe, and outside it must have been like 90, 92 degrees. Dew point was like 70 something degrees. And I remember listening on the radio, it was either the AccuWeather or maybe it was Craig Allen talking about the amazement that literally right before their eyes, there were these like gigantic thunderstorms that literally were popping up right over Queens and portions of Brooklyn. Tex Antoine, the late Tex Antoine, used to refer to it as the percolating effect, that the atmosphere is literally bubbling and percolating. And yes, by all means, if you get enough percolation, so to speak, if the air is juicy enough, you can get violent thunderstorms and you can spawn a couple of isolated or stray tornadoes. So yeah, you don't necessarily need it. I mean, it's nice if you want that kind of weather. That the cold front will certainly serve as your go-to catalyst to get them, but you can have them popping up in this exceedingly warm and sticky, humid air mass. I'm sure, Joe, that that's what they have a lot of during the summertime down in Florida
Yes.
and
Yeah.
along the Gulf Coast.
74 likes so far. So we're only 26 shy of 100. If you could take us over 100, that would be a wonderful thing. Thanks for those of you who hit the like button tonight. And Steve LaPointe hitting Super Chat. Thank you so much, Stephen. Most appreciated there as well. And I think we have the chairman left some questions for you, Joe, on tonight's Yes, Les Burler Jeopardy. And the and the category tonight is astronomy.
Oh, he left the questions with you.
Yes.
Oh,
and
okay.
and the category is astronomy.
Astronomy.
Yes. From the Geoparty, the Geoparty TV show.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
So question. By the way, I happened to be flipping channels and I saw, and Jeopardy was on. And they had Dr. Oz was hosting.
Yeah, he's been hosting since the beginning of the week. He's going to have this is his first week of hosting.
The face was familiar, but I couldn't put the name to it until I read someone's opinion on Facebook, and then I said, "Oh yeah, that was Dr. Oz." Okay, so we won't say what the opinion was. So here we go. Space for 200, Joe. In March of 1986, 5 spacecraft made flybys of this comet.
And they want me to name the 5 spacecraft?
No, the comet.
Oh, Halley.
Question 2. This is a daily double for 800.
Yeah.
While Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin explored the moon, he was orbiting about 70 miles above it.
That had to be Mike Collins, and I had the great privilege, Joe, of spending a week with Mike Collins on board a cruise ship back in 1991. Michael Collins is probably one of the nicest guys I have ever had a chance to meet. And one morning, it was the morning before it was my job on that ship to steer the ship into an area of clear weather for everybody on board to see the eclipse the next morning, and it didn't look very good. We mentioned this about a week or two ago. We had a TUT, a tropical upper tropospheric trough, a very anomalous, very unusual situation. So I am just sitting by my lonesome at like 7:30 on the promenade deck at a table by myself, looking at a couple of weather maps and whatever, and trying to figure out what the hell we're going to do between now and tomorrow morning. And Mike Collins, the astronaut on board Apollo 11 in the command module while Aldrin and Armstrong were cavorting on the moon, Mike Collins on that ship, every morning he would go around the promenade deck. He used to jog 4 times around the promenade deck, which I think was 1 mile. He passes me, stops, comes over and walks over to me and says, "Hey, Joe, why you have such a worried look on your face?" And I told him, and he says, "Don't worry about it. Nobody's going to blame you if it's cloudy tomorrow morning. It's an unusual situation or whatever." And then he says, "How about you want to have breakfast? Let's have something to eat."
Oh, nice.
And I'm sitting there talking with the man who was orbiting the moon during the first mission to land a man on the moon, and I kept saying to myself, I can't believe I'm sitting here with, and he's just like right across the table from me, and he didn't want to, I kept trying to ask him questions, but he seemed to be more interested in asking me questions like, what do you like to, do? How long you've been married? Do you have any kids? Or something like that. And he was just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful, wonderful man. And he was on board with us on the Eclipse cruise. He was one of the quote celebrities on board. You may remember the Jackie Gleason show of the 1960s, where they were doing the honeymooners from Miami Beach.
Right.
They had Sheila McRae and Jane Keane. And of course Art Carney. And and you remember how at the end of the show he would introduce the cast.
Right.
He said, "Well, first we have Jane Keane," and they give a nice little courtesy round of applause. Sheila McRae, a little bigger, round of applause. Art Carney, and the whole people, everybody would go bizarre.
Would roar, yeah.
Yeah. When we started that cruise, I was like the low man on the totem pole. They had Frederick Pohl, who was a world famous science fiction writer. Of course, there was Michael Collins, a couple of other celebrities. I was like the bottom rung. And they said, here's Joe Rayo. There was like a polite round of applause or whatever. They'd get to Michael Collins, and, it was like
Art Carney. Sure.
Yeah, like that. When we saw the eclipse, we were so lucky. We saw it. I was able to find a spot to put the cruise ship in clear weather or whatever. That night when the captain was introducing everybody, he gets to Mike Collins. He's Mike Collins, yeah. And here's the man now who was responsible for us seeing the total eclipse this morning, Joe Rayo. And like everybody, the whole ballroom.
That's
nice.
That's so cool.
And I'm sitting there, and who's right next to me, standing up and giving me that round of applause? But Mike Collins.
That's great. Those are moments.
I wish I had a picture of that, but unfortunately, the rest of my family decided they'd go to the luau on.
Well, it's a memory that you'll carry for the rest of your days, and that's what matters.
You're shaking your head. My wife is going like with the violin here.
Speed it up a little.
Oh, okay. Back up to Macy's, second floor. Notions, potions.
Yeah. All right. So, is there any other questions? I just had to get that Mike Collins question.
Yes, there's more. Okay. This. Okay, Mike Collins. Okay. This daily double for 1,500. This comet in 1973 did not put on the promised good show.
Comet Kohoutek.
Question 4.
Actually.
This planet, despite being 10 times the size of Earth and the 6th planet from the sun, would actually float in water.
I used that. I gave a library talk today for a bunch of kids, a virtual library talk. And I brought up a picture of the planet in question, and then I brought up a picture of the planet in a bathtub. And I said, if any of you can find a bathtub large enough to float this planet in, be my guest. It is Saturn.
Okay. So now you have $22,000, all right?
Yeah.
And your opponents both have $15,000. So tell me how much you want to wager for the final Jeopardy question.
8,001, because even if the two others had 15,000 and double their score, I'd still end up $1 ahead, right?
Oh, right. I guess so.
Right.
Yes, 7,000. Well, 22. Your opponents have 15. Whatever you said. Yeah, that's
8,001.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the average airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow. No, that's not it.
What?
No.
What?
No. Okay. So here it is. Discovered in 1967, the first of these stars was dubbed LGM-1. The perceived signal was jokingly thought to be from Little Green Men.
Right. A pulsar. right?
That is correct. So you can
Yes.
you can go home with your fictitious 20 whatever it is,
$30,001. Yes.
I might give you the dollar.
And Renata, you see, Matt K says Rayo has enough stories for 100 years. Always fun to listen to. Do you see that, dear? Because she's saying, sorry, folks, he does go on a little.
Mr. Ruben Fairchild, who's our producer now, apparently.
He hates my story.
Yeah, exactly. He's not here tonight. I don't see him on the chat board.
Right.
He's going to love what I'm about to say. All right. 8:27, so I think we should wrap it up. Now, I am going to be, Joe and I are usually not, we usually don't do a show on Friday and Saturday, and guess what? We're not going to do a show this Friday and Saturday. I am going to be on the road, going back to Georgia on Saturday morning. So I should be back Saturday evening, and assuming that I don't wake up a wreck on Sunday morning, we'll have our Sunday morning Joe and Joe show at the usual 11 o'clock Eastern time, but I will, a.m. Eastern time. But Joe, I'll tell you ahead of time and tell everybody ahead of time. Outside chance it might be pushed to the evening on Sunday if that works for you. Outside chance, just in case.
Outside chance.
Because after it takes me a good 15 hours to do the drive, so
Right.
I'm usually pretty wiped out. And if I get there back in time and in the late afternoon or early evening, because I plan to leave early. But if I get there in early evening and get a decent night's sleep, I'll be fine for 11 o'clock. But if for some reason I wind up getting delayed, then outside chance we'll push the show to Sunday evening. Okay?
Let's just hope that there's still something when you get down there after tonight.
Yeah, well, yeah, fingers crossed on that. Right. All right, folks, thanks for being here. Always wonderful to see everybody on the chat board engaging in conversation. We didn't get to 100 likes, but we got to 88, which is not too shabby. It's
89 right now on my thing. Hey, everybody, at the count of 3, smash that like button, all right? 1, 2, 3, boom! Come on! 9 away. Let's go.
91.
Come on. 92. Come on. Smash that button. 95. We ain't going anywhere until we hit 100, folks. 96. Come on, 4 lousy likes. Now, somebody actually took one away.
I know, I'm at 94. I'm kind of tired.
97. Come on, 3 more. Come on, 3 more. Push.
98.
99. 99. And...
Oh, somebody just hit the thing so we could end
100.
the show.
100.
We got the 100. Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
All right. All right. So we'll see everybody on Sunday. Good night, everybody.
Good night. 104.
Excellent. Good night, everyone.
111.